The polished brass nameplate gleamed under the fluorescent light. Jack Evans knelt meticulously, wiping away a smudge with his cloth. Claire Harrison, CEO. A small ritual he performed each night, though she'd never notice. The empty executive floor stretched around him, silent except for the soft squeak of his cleaning cart's wheels. Nearly midnight, and Jack was alone with his thoughts, just how he preferred it. "Do you have any idea who I am?" The voice cut through the silence, sharp as winter air. Jack's head snapped up. Standing before him was Claire Harrison herself, elegant in a tailored charcoal suit despite the late hour. Her dark hair pulled into a severe knot, her expression glacial. Behind her at the far end of the hallway, a group of men in expensive suits huddled poorly, concealing their amusement. "I believe so, Miss Harrison. You're the CEO." Jack slowly stood, suddenly conscious of his worn uniform, the cleaning supplies clutched in his hands. Her eyes narrowed. "And you are—" "Jack Evans, night custodial staff." The words felt heavy in his mouth. Claire's gaze flicked toward the group of laughing executives, then back to Jack. Understanding dawned on his face as he followed her glance. The man in front, Robert Mitchell, the CFO, raised his phone slightly, the red recording light unmistakable. This wasn't a chance encounter. This was entertainment at his expense. Jack's chest tightened. 3 years of invisibility shattered in an instant. "If you'll excuse me, Ms. Harrison, I have the rest of the floor to finish." His voice remained steady, years of practice, hiding pain serving him well. Claire's perfect composure faltered for just a moment. Something confusion, perhaps recognition, flickered in her eyes before the mask returned. "Of course, carry on." Jack nodded, pushing his cart forward back straight, despite the weight of eyes following him. He'd learned long ago that dignity was sometimes all a man had left. "We're all just people at the end of the day, Miss Harrison," he murmured too quietly for anyone to hear. The digital clock on Jack's nightstand cast a soft red glow across the small bedroom. 5:30 a.m. He silenced the alarm before it could sound, a habit formed from years of waking before Emma. The apartment was small, a living room that doubled as his bedroom, a tiny kitchenette, and one proper bedroom where Emma slept. Not much, but he kept it impeccably clean, the floor shining despite the worn furniture. Jack moved quietly through his morning routine. Shower, shave, coffee. 20 minutes to himself before the day began. On the wall hung a single framed photo, Sarah holding newborn Emma, both bathed in sunlight streaming through a hospital window. That light seemed to have followed Emma into the world. His daughter radiated the same warmth her mother once had. "Daddy." Emma appeared in her doorway, rubbing sleep from her eyes. At 7, she was already showing Sarah's delicate features and quick mind. "Hey, sunshine, early bird today." Jack smiled, pouring milk into her favorite cereal bowl, chipped around the rim, but decorated with fading stars. "Inhaler before breakfast, remember." Emma nodded, retrieving her inhaler from its place on the counter. 2 puffs, just like the doctor had shown them. The medication was expensive, but non-negotiable. Jack watched her carefully. The asthma had appeared after Sarah died, as if grief had somehow manifested physically in his daughter. "Ms. Peterson says we're going to the museum today," Emma announced, settling at their small table. "We need $5 for the bus." Jack nodded mentally, adjusting his already tight budget. The heating bill had come yesterday higher than expected. "No problem, sweetheart. I've got it covered." He opened the drawer by the sink, pulling out a well-worn leather wallet. Inside, carefully arranged bills reflected his precisely managed finances. He extracted a $5 bill, placing it in Emma's lunch bag alongside the sandwich he'd prepared the night before. "Will you be home for dinner tonight, Daddy?" Emma asked a question that always carried more weight than a child should bear. "Absolutely. Thursday is spaghetti night, remember?" Jack ran a hand through her hair, still tangled from sleep. "And I need my sous chef." Emma beamed, her smile erasing the worry lines around her eyes, eyes that sometimes looked decades older than they should. She'd grown up too quickly after Sarah died. After dropping Emma at school, Jack allowed himself a detour. The neighborhood library wouldn't open for another hour, but the bench outside had become his thinking spot. From his backpack, he extracted a worn notebook. Inside, stuck between pages of budget calculations and to-do lists, was an envelope from Philadelphia General Hospital. Final notice stamped in alarming red, $13,000 remaining on Sarah's medical bills. The payment plan barely made a dent, And now Emma's prescription costs were increasing. Jack ran a hand over his face, feeling the weight of each number, each decision that had led him here. He flipped to another section of the notebook where a different Jack Evans existed on paper. Degrees, certifications, awards for pioneering work in pediatric speech therapy, press clippings about his innovative techniques for children with communicative disorders, a life abandoned after Sarah's diagnosis, after watching her fade despite every specialist, every treatment, every prayer. The night she died, something in Jack died too. His belief that he could heal, that he could make a difference. What was the point of helping others find their voice when he couldn't save the one voice that mattered most? So Dr. Jack Evans disappeared. In his place, a night janitor who needed stable hours to raise his daughter and health insurance to keep her breathing. The Harrison Financial Building dominated Philadelphia's skyline, its glass facade reflecting clouds during the day and stars at night. Jack had chosen it deliberately. The company was known for excellent employee benefits, even for custodial staff. Emma's medications would be covered. That was all that mattered. For 3 years, he'd moved through its corridors like a ghost, invisible to the executives and analysts who populated the daytime hours. Until last night. Claire Harrison stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, noting with clinical detachment the shadows beneath her eyes. Sleep had evaded her again. The penthouse apartment sprawled around her 32 floors above the city, beautiful, expansive, and echoing with silence. "Olivia," she called, keeping her voice light. "Breakfast is ready." No response. She hadn't expected one. Claire found her daughter sitting at the kitchen island, already dressed in her private school uniform, meticulously coloring a picture of a house. A large house with 4 stick figures holding hands outside. Olivia, barely 5, had Sarah's dark hair and solemn eyes, but hadn't spoken a word in almost a year. "That's beautiful, sweetie." Claire placed a plate of perfectly cut fruit beside her daughter. "Is that our home?" Olivia didn't look up, continuing to color with fierce concentration. She never answered questions anymore. Not since that night. Claire's phone buzzed with a calendar alert. Meeting with Dr. Winters, 10 a.m. Another specialist, another consultation, another $1,000 that hadn't helped her daughter speak. Claire had hired the best speech pathologist in the country. Harvard credentials, published research, cutting-edge therapeutic approaches. None had broken through Olivia's wall of silence. The school had been patient, but yesterday's email had been clear. If Olivia didn't show improvement soon, they recommended transferring her to a specialized program for children with communication disorders. The thought made Claire's chest tighten. Her daughter wasn't disabled, she was wounded. There was a difference. As she gathered her briefcase, Claire noticed a new drawing on the refrigerator. A solitary woman figure standing atop what appeared to be the Harrison Financial Building. No smile on the figure's face. At the bottom, in Olivia's careful handwriting, "Mommy sad." Claire's throat constricted. Even in silence, her daughter saw everything. The elevator doors opened on the 38th floor of Harrison Financial and conversation immediately hushed. Claire strode through the sudden silence, nodding briskly to employees who scrambled to appear productive. She'd grown accustomed to the effects she had respect mingled with fear. Sometimes she wondered if they knew the fear went both ways. Every decision she made affected hundreds of families. One misstep could unravel everything her father had built. Robert Mitchell waited in her office, lounging in one of the visitor chairs as if it were his own. At 38, he projected the confidence of old money, though Claire knew his background was as manufactured as his concern. "The quarterly projections look promising," he announced, without preamble, sliding a folder across her desk. "Though the board has questions about the Asian expansion." Claire took the folder without opening it. "The board always has questions, Robert. That's their job. Mine is to provide answers." Robert leaned forward, dropping his voice. "Walter was asking about you yesterday. He seemed concerned." Claire stiffened. Walter Harrison, her father's brother, chairman of the board, and the only person who could challenge her position. "My personal life is not a board matter. It is when it affects the company." Robert's smile didn't reach his eyes. "People talk, Claire. They've noticed you're distracted, leaving early for mysterious appointments. The rumors aren't flattering." Claire met his gaze coolly. "Since when do you concern yourself with rumors, Robert? I thought you were above office gossip." "I'm concerned about you, Claire, as a colleague, as a friend." His emphasis on the last word hung between them, a reminder of what she'd rejected 2 years ago. After her disastrous marriage to James, a struggling artist who'd found fame and promptly traded her for a younger model, Claire had closed that door firmly. Robert's persistent pursuit had ended with her blunt rejection. "I don't mix business with pleasure, and I don't have time for either." He hadn't taken it well. "The board meeting is Friday," Robert continued smoothly. "Walter expects a full presentation on the new strategic direction. I hope you're prepared." The warning was clear. Robert had been cultivating Walter's trust for months, positioning himself as the stable alternative to Claire's supposedly erratic leadership. After he left, Claire turned to the window, looking down at the city spread beneath her. From this height, people were reduced to moving specks, insignificant, anonymous, like the janitor from last night. The memory brought a flush of shame. She'd known immediately it was some kind of setup. Robert's smirking face in the background had confirmed it. But instead of shutting it down, she'd played along briefly, too exhausted to fight yet another of Robert's petty games. The janitor's face lingered in her mind. Not anger in his eyes, but a quiet dignity she rarely encountered in these halls of power and ambition. In a secure corner office on the 35th floor, Robert Mitchell swirled brandy in a crystal glass, watching surveillance footage from the previous night. The encounter between Claire and the janitor had been brief, unsatisfying. She hadn't taken the bait as he'd hoped. "We need something more direct," he mused to his assistant Peterson. "Something that exposes her vulnerability." Peterson nodded, scrolling through employee records on his tablet. "I've been looking into Evans. There's something interesting here." Robert raised an eyebrow, taking the tablet. The personnel file was thin, basic application, background check, medical insurance forms. But Peterson had dug deeper, finding old newspaper articles and academic publications. "Dr. Jack Evans," Robert read aloud, surprise coloring his voice. "Former director of pediatric speech therapy at Philadelphia Children's Hospital. Pioneer in communication disorders. What the hell is he doing mopping our floors?" Peterson shrugged. "Fell off the radar about 3 years ago. Wife died of cancer. Has a daughter with health issues." A slow smile spread across Robert's face as pieces clicked into place. "Claire's daughter hasn't spoken in a year. Everyone knows it, though she tries to keep it quiet." He tapped the screen thoughtfully. "And we have a speech therapy specialist working as our janitor. This is perfect." "Perfect for what exactly?" Peterson looked uncomfortable. Robert set down his glass, eyes gleaming with purpose. "Perfect for showing the board that Claire's judgment is compromised, that she's willing to risk company reputation for personal gain." He paced the office energy building. "We'll set them up, a blind date, the CEO and the janitor. When it blows up publicly, Walter will have no choice but to question her decision-making." "Isn't that a bit extreme?" Robert turned sharply. "You weren't there when she humiliated me, Peterson. When she made it clear I wasn't good enough for her, despite everything I've done for this company." The mask of professional calm slipped, revealing the wounded pride beneath. "She needs to learn that actions have consequences." The maintenance room in the basement of Harrison Financial served as headquarters for the night cleaning crew. Jack stored his personal items in a small locker, changing from his street clothes into the gray uniform that rendered him invisible to the daytime occupants. "Evans," the supervisor's voice bounced off concrete walls. "You've got visitors." Jack turned surprised to see Robert Mitchell and two other executives he recognized from the 35th floor standing awkwardly among the cleaning supplies. Their expensive suits looked out of place against the industrial backdrop. "Can I help you, gentlemen?" Jack kept his voice neutral, though alarm bells rang in his head. Executives didn't visit the maintenance room. Robert stepped forward, hand extended. "Jack Wright, Robert Mitchell, CFO. We met briefly last night." Jack didn't take the offered hand. "I remember. What can I do for you, Mr. Mitchell?" If Robert was offended by the rebuff, he didn't show it. "Actually, it's what we can do for you. We have a proposition." The other men exchanged knowing glances as Robert continued. "There's a woman in accounting, Jennifer. Brilliant, attractive, but shy. She's seen you around and expressed interest." Jack's expression remained impassive. "I'm not sure I understand." "A date, Jack. We're talking about setting you up on a date, our treat, tomorrow night at Le Pavilion, 8 o'clock. Robert's smile was practiced, convincing. Everyone deserves a second chance at happiness, right? The words struck like a physical blow. Second chance, as if happiness were something Jack felt entitled to after Sarah. I appreciate the thought, but I'm not interested. Jack turned back to his locker, conversation finished. Robert persisted. Come on, Evans. When's the last time you had a night out? Don't you get lonely? Jack closed his locker with more force than necessary. I have a daughter who needs me at home. Thank you, but no. Born as he pushed his cart toward the elevator, Robert called after him. Just think about it. Reservations already made. Don't make the lady wait. The evening stretched before Jack as he helped Emma with homework at their small kitchen table. Math worksheets and spelling lists scattered between them a normal Wednesday night ritual. But Robert's words echoed in his mind. Don't you get lonely? Of course he did. The loneliness was a constant companion as familiar as his own heartbeat. But he'd made peace with it, built his life around Emma, and the quiet routine that kept them both afloat. Daddy, you're not listening, Emma's voice pulled him back. I said Mrs. Davis wants us to write about our heroes. Sorry, sunshine, just thinking about work. Jack refocused on his daughter. Who's your hero? Emma tilted her head, considering seriously. I was thinking maybe Mommy, because even though she got really sick, she was always brave. That's what heroes do, right? They're brave even when they're scared. Jack swallowed hard. That's exactly right. Mommy was the bravest person I ever knew. Who's your hero, Daddy? The question hung in the air. Once he would have said Sarah without hesitation. But lately, you are M. The truth came easily. You face every day with a smile, even when things are tough. That's real courage. Emma beamed, then turned thoughtful. Daddy, you should go on that date. Jack froze. What date? I heard you talking to Uncle Mike on the phone about a lady who wants to meet you. Emma's eyes, so much like Sarah's, held a wisdom beyond her years. I think Mommy would want you to go. It's not that simple, Em. Why not? The directness of childhood cut through his defenses. You're always telling me to try new things, even when they're scary. Jack looked at his daughter, really looked at her. When had she become so perceptive, so mature? He'd been so focused on surviving that he hadn't noticed her growing into this thoughtful little person. Maybe you're right. The words surprised him as much as Emma. Maybe I should. Emma's smile was worth the anxiety clutching at his chest. You should wear your blue shirt. It makes your eyes look like the sky. Later, after Emma was asleep, Jack stood before the small mirror in the bathroom, studying his reflection. 43 years had carved lines around his eyes, threaded silver through his dark hair. The blue shirt Emma suggested hung loose where it once fit perfectly. He'd lost weight after Sarah died and never quite regained it. He thought about calling Robert, accepting the invitation. What was the worst that could happen? An awkward evening, a polite goodbye, back to normal life. But something about the situation felt wrong. The executive's smirking faces, the sudden interest in his social life after years of invisibility. Still, Emma's words weighed heavily. Maybe Mommy would want you to go. Jack reached for his phone. Claire sat at her kitchen island reviewing board presentation materials, while Olivia colored quietly beside her. The penthouse was silent except for the soft scratch of crayons on paper. Claire had tried playing music earlier, a recommendation from the latest therapist, but Olivia had covered her ears until she turned it off. Her phone buzzed with a text from Robert. Unexpected but urgent. Need to discuss strategy before the board meeting. Dinner tomorrow. Claire frowned. Robert knew she avoided evening meetings, protecting what little time she had with Olivia. About to refuse, she paused, noticing another text arriving. Bringing James Hoffman, venture capitalist from Boston. Interested in our Asian expansion. Specifically asked about meeting you after your Forbes profile. Claire's irritation shifted to professional interest. The Asian expansion needed additional funding, and venture capital connections could prove valuable. Still, something felt off about Robert's sudden helpfulness. Her phone rang the nanny agency. I'm so sorry, Ms. Harrison, but Amanda has a family emergency. She won't be able to watch Olivia tomorrow evening. Claire's grip tightened on the phone. I see. Do you have anyone else available? On such short notice, I'm afraid not. We could try for Friday instead. Claire glanced at Olivia, still absorbed in her coloring. That won't be necessary, thank you. She ended the call, mind racing. Canceling on a potential investor would look unprofessional, especially with Robert there to witness it. After a moment's deliberation, she texted Robert back. Can we make it early? And somewhere child-friendly. Need to bring Olivia. His response came quickly. Lou Pavilion at 8. Private room. They're very accommodating for children. Claire hesitated. Lou Pavilion was hardly child-friendly, but their private dining rooms would at least provide separation from other guests. And if this James Hoffman could help secure funding for the expansion, one difficult evening with Olivia would be worth it. Fine. See you then. She set her phone down, turning to Olivia. Sweetie, we're going to have dinner out tomorrow night with some people from Mommy's work. Olivia didn't look up, but her crayon stilled for a moment, the only indication she'd heard. Claire sighed, running a hand over her daughter's hair. It'll be okay. I promise. The promise felt hollow. Nothing had been okay since that night a year ago, since James had walked out leaving destruction in his wake. Claire remembered Olivia hiding in the closet during their final argument, hands pressed over her ears, tears streaming down her face. How the child had emerged after James slammed the door, looked up with those enormous eyes, opened her mouth as if to speak, and nothing came out. Nothing had come out since. The specialist called it selective mutism triggered by trauma. She's not physically unable to speak, Dr. Winters had explained. She's psychologically unwilling. The trauma created a block. Claire had thrown money at the problem, hiring the most renowned experts. She'd adjusted her schedule, attended therapy sessions, read every book recommended. Nothing broke through Olivia's silence. Now the school was losing patience. Her daughter was falling behind, and Claire was running out of options. As Olivia finally fell asleep that night, Claire found herself standing before her closet, uncertain what to wear to a business dinner that now felt fraught with complications. Her hand lingered on a simple navy dress, elegant, but not overtly formal. Something about tomorrow night had her on edge. Robert's sudden helpfulness, the last-minute nature of the meeting, the insistence on Le Pavillon. She was missing something, and Claire Harrison hated missing anything. Thursday evening arrived with a gathering storm. Jack stood before the mirror in his small bathroom, adjusting the collar of his blue shirt. The only decent clothing he owned, purchased for Sarah's funeral and worn since. It felt tight around the neck, constrictive, like the anxiety squeezing his chest. You look handsome, Daddy. Emma watched from the doorway, pride shining in her eyes. Thanks, sunshine. Jack attempted a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Aunt Lisa will be here any minute to stay with you. Bedtime is still 8:30, homework first. Emma nodded solemnly. I know, and my inhaler is on the nightstand if I need it. Jack knelt, bringing himself to her eye level. I won't be late. This is just a quick dinner, then I'll be home. It's okay if you're late, Daddy. Emma's small hand straightened his collar with surprising gentleness. If you like the lady, you should stay and talk. Aunt Lisa won't mind. The simplicity of her permission nearly undid him. When had his 7-year-old become so concerned with his happiness? A knock at the door announced his sister's arrival. Lisa entered with her usual whirlwind energy, grocery bags in both arms. I brought ingredients for brownies. Figured we could have a baking night. Jack raised an eyebrow. On a school night? Lisa waved dismissively. Live a little big brother. Emma's responsible enough for one late night. She surveyed him critically. Well, look at you. Almost remembered how to dress like a human being. Very funny. Jack grabbed his wallet and keys, anxiety mounting with each passing minute. Lisa's expression softened. Hey, it's just dinner, Jack. Not a lifelong commitment. I know. But did he? 3 years of carefully constructed routine shattered by one impulsive decision. What was he thinking? Emma hugged him fiercely. Remember what Mommy always said, brave face forward. Jack's throat tightened. Sarah's mantra before difficult therapy sessions with children. Brave face forward. He pressed a kiss to Emma's head. I remember, sunshine. Love you. Love you more. Love you most. The ritual complete, Jack headed into the rainy night for his final gift to him, their daughter's unwavering faith providing the courage each step required. Across town, Claire faced her own pre-dinner challenges. Olivia sat rigid on the bed, refusing the dress Claire had selected. Sweetheart, we need to leave in 15 minutes. Claire tried to keep frustration from her voice. You need to get dressed. Olivia's response was to cross her arms tighter, eyes downcast. Claire took a deep breath, remembering Dr. Winter's advice about offering choices rather than demands. Would you prefer the blue dress or your gray skirt with the stars? Olivia pointed to the skirt, a small victory that Claire seized gratefully. Excellent choice. Let's get you ready. As Claire helped her daughter dress, a familiar guilt surfaced. Was she bringing Olivia for the child's benefit, or to use her as a buffer against Robert's increasingly obvious personal interest? The truth was uncomfortably ambiguous. Her phone buzzed with a text from Robert Table confirmed. Private room and back. Our guest is looking forward to meeting you. Claire texted back a brief acknowledgement, then knelt before Olivia. This is important for Mommy's work, but I promise we won't stay long. If you get tired, just squeeze my hand twice, okay? That will be our secret signal. Olivia nodded, her solemn eyes holding Claire's gaze. Sometimes Claire wondered if her daughter's silence was a choice, a power the child exercised in a world where she controlled so little else. I love you, Olivia, more than anything. Claire's voice caught. I'm trying my best even when it doesn't seem like it. Olivia's small hand reached up, touching Claire's cheek in a gesture so tender it brought tears to her eyes. No words, but in that touch was everything Claire needed understanding. Forgiveness, love. The moment shattered as Claire's phone rang. The lobby security desk, her car had arrived. Time to go. Le Pavilion occupied the ground floor of a historic building in Center City, its understated exterior belying the opulence within. Jack arrived exactly at 8, stomach knotted with nerves. The maitre d' greeted him with a deference that felt foreign after years of invisibility. Ah, Mr. Evans, your party is expecting you. Please follow me. Jack followed, acutely aware of his worn shoes against marble floors, the slight fray at his shirt cuff, 1,000 small details that marked him as out of place in this temple of wealth. Tables filled with Philadelphia's elites surrounded him, men and women who inhabited a world separate from his own, divided by more than just income. The maitre d' led him toward a private room at the back, its doors partially closed. Your table, sir. Jack stepped forward, a sense of foreboding growing with each step. Through the gap in the doors, he caught a glimpse of the table's occupant and froze. Claire Harrison sat alone, consulting in her phone, a glass of water untouched before her. Not Jennifer from accounting, the CEO of Harrison Financial. In that moment, everything clicked into place. The executives barely concealed amusement. The insistence on this particular restaurant. The setup wasn't for a date, it was for humiliation. His, hers, or both remained unclear. Jack considered retreating, avoiding the confrontation entirely. But something stopped him, a glimpse of a small figure sitting at a side table near the entrance. A little girl with dark hair, coloring quietly under a server's watchful eye. Something in her solitary focus, her careful isolation, struck a chord. Before he could decide, Claire looked up and saw him. Recognition, then shock, then something harder flashed across her face. Jack steeled himself and entered the room. Mr. Evans? Her voice was ice, each syllable precisely formed. Do you have any idea who I am? Jack stood, tall dignity, his only shield. Yes, Ms. Harrison. You're the CEO of Harrison Financial, my employer. Her gaze flickered past him to a corner table in the main dining room, where Robert Mitchell and several other executives sat, making no attempt to hide their amusement. One had his phone raised, recording the encounter. Understanding dawned on Claire's face. This is a setup. It appears so. Jack's voice remained calm despite the humiliation burning through him. I was told I was meeting someone from accounting, Jennifer. And I was told I was meeting James Hoffman, a venture capitalist from Boston. Claire's composure cracked slightly, a flash of genuine anger breaking through. Robert Mitchell's idea of entertainment, apparently. Jack nodded toward the exit. I should go. No. The command was quiet but absolute. Claire's eyes, fixed on Robert's table, burned with cold fury. You will sit down, Mr. Evans. You will order dinner. We will not give those pathetic little boys the satisfaction. Something in her tone, pride mixed with rage, resonated with Jack. He recognized the determination to maintain dignity at all costs. Slowly, he pulled out the chair across from her and sat. An awkward silence settled between them, broken only when a small voice called out, Daddy! Jack turned to see Emma standing beside the little girl he'd noticed earlier. His sister Lisa stood behind them, looking apologetic. She wanted to surprise you, Lisa explained. When I said you were on a date, she insisted on seeing who with. I'm sorry, I thought it would be sweet. Emma approached the table, eyes wide with curiosity. Are you my daddy's date? You're very pretty. Claire's icy demeanor thawed slightly in the face of Emma's earnestness. I'm Claire, and you must be Emma. Uh-huh, I'm 7. Emma peered at the silent girl still sitting at the side table. Who's that? That's my daughter Olivia. She's 5. Claire's voice softened when speaking of her child. Emma brightened. Can she come sit with us? I brought my coloring book. We could share. Claire hesitated, glancing at Olivia, then back to Emma. Olivia doesn't talk much. That's okay. My best friend at school, Tyler, doesn't talk much either. He has autism. We still play together. Emma's simple acceptance cut through the tension like a knife. Can I go ask her? After a moment's consideration, Claire nodded. Emma immediately headed to Olivia's table, approaching the younger girl with a natural kindness that made Jack's chest swell with pride. Your daughter is, Claire searched for the word, remarkable. She takes after her mother. Jack's response was automatic, a familiar tribute to Sarah's memory. They watched as Emma showed Olivia her coloring book, chattering happily despite the younger girl's silence. To Jack's surprise, Olivia began to respond not verbally, but through small gestures pointing to colors she preferred, nodding or shaking her head at Emma's questions. They're getting along well, Jack observed cautiously. Claire nodded, a hint of wonder in her expression. Olivia doesn't usually engage like this with strangers. The waiter approached, breaking the moment. Would you care to order drinks? Sparkling water for me, Claire replied, and Shirley Temples for the girls. Would just water, thank you, Jack added, eyeing the menu without opening it, certain everything listed would be beyond his means. Order whatever you like, Mr. Evans, Claire said, noticing his hesitation. Consider this a company dinner. Jack met her gaze steadily. I appreciate the gesture, Ms. Harrison, but I'm perfectly capable of paying for my own meal. A flicker of respect crossed her face. Of course. As the waiter departed, Jack noticed Robert and his companions watching intently, confusion evident in their expressions. The script they had written was clearly not playing out as expected. Your daughter, Jack began carefully. Has she always been quiet? Claire tensed visibly. That's a rather personal question from an employee I've just met, Mr. Evans. You're right, I apologize. Jack backtracked, cursing himself for overstepping. Claire studied him for a long moment, then sighed. No, she hasn't. Olivia stopped speaking about a year ago, after her father left. The clinical detachment in her voice couldn't quite mask the pain beneath. Jack recognized the tone. He'd used it himself countless times discussing Sarah's illness. Selective mutism, he said without thinking. Claire's eyes narrowed. You know about such things? Jack hesitated, then nodded. I have some background in child development. Before Claire could press further, the girls returned to the table. Emma proudly displayed a page they'd colored together, a unicorn with a rainbow mane. Olivia picked all the colors, Emma announced. She likes blue best. Jack smiled at Olivia, who watched him with cautious interest. Blue is an excellent choice. It's my favorite too. As the waiter returned with their drinks, Jack noticed the sugar packets in the small ceramic bowl at the center of the table. A memory surfaced, an old technique he'd used with particularly withdrawn children during therapy sessions. Without thinking, he tore open a packet, carefully pouring a small amount onto the dark wood table, arranging the crystals into a tiny star shape. Then he dipped his finger in his water glass and placed a single droplet beside the sugar star. Look, he said softly, not directing his words to anyone in particular. A wishing star and a magic raindrop. Both girls leaned forward, curiosity piqued. Jack slowly pushed the water droplet with his fingertip until it touched the sugar. The star instantly dissolved, seemingly absorbed by the droplet. The raindrop gave the star a hug, Jack explained gently. Now the wish is safe inside. Olivia's eyes widened, a spark of genuine interest lighting her face. She looked from the disappeared star to Jack, then to the sugar bowl, a clear question in her gaze. Jack pushed the bowl slightly toward her. Slowly, Olivia reached out, took a packet, and slid it across the table to him, a requested invitation. Claire watched the exchange with an intensity that was almost physical. Her hand gripped her water glass so tightly her knuckles whitened. How did you do that? She whispered too softly for the children to hear. Jack shrugged, uncomfortable with her focus. It's just a simple science demonstration. Surface tension, Kids usually find it engaging. No. Claire's voice was sharp now. How did you get her to respond like that? I've hired specialists from across the country, paid thousands for therapies. None of them? She stopped composing herself. None of them got a reaction like that. Jack felt the weight of her gaze, the desperate hope behind her question. It pulled at something deep within him, something he'd buried alongside Sarah. The therapist he used to be stirred, recognizing a child in need, a parent in pain. But that man was gone. He'd failed when it mattered most. What right did he have to step back into that role? It was just a lucky moment, he deflected. Sometimes children respond to novelty. Claire clearly didn't believe him, but before she could press further, the waiter arrived to take their orders. The rest of the dinner passed in a strange, strained normalcy. The girls colored together, Jack created more sugar stars, and Claire watched it all with calculating intensity. From the corner of his eye, Jack noticed Robert and his companions eventually leaving their entertainment value, apparently diminished by the lack of public humiliation they had expected. As the evening concluded, Claire insisted on paying, despite Jack's objections. Outside the restaurant, as Lisa took Emma to hail a taxi, Claire confronted Jack directly. The specialists have a clinical name for it, she said without preamble. Selective mutism induced by trauma. They have theories, methods, none of which have worked. She stepped closer, her voice dropping. I have paid world-renowned doctors more money than you'll see in a lifetime to do what you just did with a packet of sugar and a drop of water. So you're going to tell me who you really are, Mr. Evans. Jack felt exposed, cornered, the walls he'd carefully built around his past life threatening to crumble. I'm the man who mops your floors, that's all. Claire's eyes narrowed. I don't believe you. That's not my problem, Ms. Harrison. I want you to help my daughter. It wasn't a request, but a command issued with the certainty of someone unaccustomed to refusal. The presumption ignited something in Jack, a spark of defiance fueled by years of suppressed grief and anger. No. The word hung between them, simple and devastating. Claire blinked, genuinely shocked. Excuse me. I said no. Jack's voice remained quiet but firm. I can't help her. I'm just a janitor, remember? That part of my life is over. Before she could respond, he turned and walked to where Emma waited, leaving Claire Harrison, perhaps for the first time in her professional life, speechless, standing alone on the rain-slicked sidewalk. The taxi ride home was quiet, Emma leaning against Jack's side, tired from the excitement. I liked Olivia, she murmured sleepily. She's sad inside like you used to be. Jack stared out the window at the passing city lights, his reflection ghostly against the glass. What makes you say that, sunshine? Her eyes, they look like yours did after Mommy died. Emma yawned. You should help her, Daddy. You're good at helping sad people. Jack closed his eyes, his daughter's simple faith in him, a weight he wasn't sure he could bear. It's complicated, Em. Grown-ups always say that when they're scared. Emma's observation cut to the heart of the matter with children's unerring accuracy. Jack had no response. Because she was right. He was terrified not of failing Claire Harrison or her silent daughter, but of succeeding. Of finding his way back to the person he used to be, only to discover that man died with Sarah after all. As Emma drifted to sleep against him, Jack gazed out at the Philadelphia skyline, the Harrison Financial Building standing tall among the skyscrapers, its windows illuminated like stars against the night sky. Tomorrow he would return to his routine, mopping floors, emptying trash cans, invisible once more. But something had changed. A door long sealed had been cracked open, and Jack wasn't certain he could close it again. Claire Harrison stood in her penthouse living room long after Olivia had fallen asleep, a glass of untouched wine in her hand. The night's events played on repeat in her mind, the setup, the janitor's unexpected connection with her daughter, his baffling refusal to help. She'd had her assistant pull his personnel file the moment she returned home. The bare-bones application revealed nothing unusual in work history limited to custodial positions. High school education claimed, but no college standard background check passed without flags. Yet his interaction with Olivia told a different story. The way he'd engaged her, drawn her out without pressure. The confidence in his assessment, selective mutism. The practiced ease of the sugar star trick, not a random game, but a therapeutic technique. Claire set down her untouched wine and moved to her laptop. A simple search confirmed her suspicions. Dr. Jack Evans, Ph.D., former director of pediatric speech therapy at Philadelphia Children's Hospital, pioneer in communication disorders, particularly trauma-induced mutism in children, author of numerous papers, speaker at international conferences, and then 3 years ago he vanished from the professional world. Further searching revealed the reason Sarah Evans' beloved music teacher, dead at 39 after a prolonged battle with pancreatic cancer. The article included a photo of Jack accepting an award months before her death, looking nothing like the subdued man who cleaned Harrison Financial's floors. This Jack Evans stood confident, eyes bright with purpose, arm around his smiling wife. Claire leaned back, pieces falling into place. The brilliant therapist who couldn't save his wife retreats from the world, taking a menial job that requires no emotional investment. A man running from his gifts because they failed him when he needed them most. A man who might be the only person capable of helping Olivia. Claire's phone chimed with a text from Robert Hope. "Your evening was pleasant. We should discuss the Asian expansion before Friday's board meeting." The audacity nearly made her laugh. After orchestrating tonight's humiliation, he expected business as usual. Claire deleted the message without responding, her mind already formulating a different plan. Jack Evans had said no to her demand, but Claire Harrison hadn't built a financial empire by accepting refusal. Tomorrow she would try a different approach. Everyone had a price, she just needed to find his. The night spread out before her, the city lights below mirroring the stars above. Two worlds separate but parallel. Like the CEO and the janitor brought together by chance or fate or a cruel joke that might against all odds become something unexpected, something healing. In her room down the hall, Olivia slept peacefully, a sugar packet clutched in her small hand like a talisman against the dark. The morning air held a bitter chill as Jack pushed his cleaning cart down the 38th floor hallway of Harrison Financial. 3 hours into his shift and fatigue already pulled at him, the restless night after the disastrous dinner with Claire Harrison taking its toll. Each office he passed represented another life far removed from his own, the framed degrees and family photos glimpsed through glass doors like artifacts from a different civilization. As he approached the executive break room, voices spilled into the hallway. Jack slowed his cart, recognizing Robert Mitchell's distinctive cadence. Completely backfired. Harrison actually stayed through the entire dinner with him. Robert's frustration was palpable, even through the partially closed door. "But don't worry, I'm not finished yet." Jack continued past, keeping his head down. Whatever game Robert was playing, Jack wanted no further part in it. Yet worry nagged at him. The CFO's vendetta seemed personal, dangerous in ways that extended beyond a humiliating dinner setup. The elevator chimed at the end of the hall, and Jack glanced up to see Claire Harrison emerge, impeccable as always in a tailored gray suit. Their eyes met briefly before Jack deliberately turned away, focusing intensely on wiping down a water fountain. Her heels clicked purposefully across the marble floor, stopping directly beside him. "Mr. Evans, a moment of your time." Jack straightened slowly, maintaining a professional distance. "Ms. Harrison, I've been researching you." Claire's voice remained low, ensuring privacy despite the open hallway. Dr. Jack Evans, Philadelphia Children's Hospital. Numerous publications on trauma-induced communication disorders. Pioneering work with selective mutism. The clinical recitation of his past hit like physical blows. Jack's grip tightened on his cleaning cloth. "That man doesn't exist anymore." "Clearly he does. I saw him last night with my daughter." Claire's composure slipped slightly, revealing the desperate mother beneath the CEO exterior. "I'll double your current salary, triple it, whatever you want." Jack felt the familiar tightening in his chest, the panic that accompanied any mention of his former life. "I told you yesterday, I'm not interested." "Everyone has a price, Mr. Evans. Not everyone, Ms. Harrison." Jack turned back to his cart. "Some things money can't repair." Claire stepped closer, lowering her voice further. "This isn't about money. It's about Olivia. She connected with you. That hasn't happened with anyone since she stopped speaking." "I'm sorry about your daughter, truly, but I can't help you." "Can't or won't." Claire's frustration edged through. "Do you know how many children could benefit from your skills? How many families are suffering because you've decided to punish yourself is hide from your gift?" Jack's patience snapped. My gift. My gift didn't save my wife. It didn't stop the cancer from eating her alive. It didn't prevent my daughter from developing asthma from the stress of watching her mother die. His voice remained low but intense. I spent years believing I could fix broken things. Then I learned some things stay broken no matter what you do. Claire didn't flinch from his anger. Some things, yes, but not Olivia. She's not broken, Mr. Evans. She's wounded, and wounds can heal with proper care. Before Jack could respond, the break room door opened. Robert Mitchell emerged, stopping short at the sight of them. His eyes narrowed, calculating. Claire, I didn't realize you'd arrived. Robert's gaze shifted between them, suspicion evident. Everything all right here? Claire's professional mask slid back into place seamlessly. Fine, Robert. Just discussing a cleaning issue with Mr. Evans. If you'll excuse us. She turned back to Jack. We'll continue this conversation another time. Jack watched her walk away, relief mingling with an unexpected sense of loss. The woman's determination was formidable, but she didn't understand. Couldn't understand what it meant to fail so completely at the one thing you believed defined you. Robert lingered, studying Jack with newfound interest. Cleaning issue. Somehow I doubt that. Jack remained silent, returning to his tasks with deliberate focus. After a moment, Robert continued, Whatever she's offering you, Evans, be careful. Claire Harrison doesn't do anything that doesn't benefit Claire Harrison. Remember that. The implied warning hung in the air as Robert departed, leaving Jack with the uncomfortable sense of being caught in a power struggle he barely comprehended. That evening, Jack found himself scrubbing at a stubborn coffee stain on the break room floor long after his regular duties should have been completed. What had initially appeared to be a simple spill revealed itself as a massive sticky disaster, a full pot of coffee mixed with shattered glass and what looked like an entire bottle of caramel syrup. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he worked, knowing Emma would be waiting. Jack had promised to help with her science project tonight, a model of the solar system they'd planned to construct together. Lisa had agreed to stay late, but the disappointment in Emma's voice during their brief phone conversation had cut deep. The break room door swung open, revealing Robert Mitchell. Still at it, Evans' dedication like that deserves recognition. Jack continued scrubbing, not bothering to look up. Just doing my job, Mr. Mitchell. A fortunate accident, wasn't it? Robert leaned against the doorframe, satisfaction evident in his tone. Clumsy intern, these things happen. Understanding dawned. This wasn't an accident. This was deliberate, a petty retaliation keeping Jack from his daughter. The realization must have shown on his face as Robert's smile widened slightly. You know, Evans, I'm curious. What exactly were you and Claire discussing this morning? Seemed rather intense for a cleaning issue. Jack stood slowly, his back aching from an hour bent over the mess. Nothing that concerns you, Mr. Mitchell. Everything concerning Claire Harrison concerns me. Robert's friendly tone hardened, especially when it involves staff stepping beyond their appropriate boundaries. Jack measured his response carefully, conscious of the power imbalance. If you have concerns about my work performance, take them up with my supervisor. Robert studied him for a long moment. You're an interesting man, Evans. Most people in your position would be more accommodating to someone who could affect their employment. He straightened, adjusting his tie. Keep that in mind moving forward. After Robert departed, Jack leaned heavily against the counter, exhaustion threatening to overwhelm him. The cost of standing his ground against Claire's request now seemed to extend beyond his own emotional well-being. Robert's implied threat hung in the air, Jack's job potentially at stake, and with it, Emma's health insurance, their apartment, everything he'd rebuilt from the ashes of his former life. By the time Jack arrived home, it was nearly midnight. Emma's solar system lay half-assembled on the kitchen table, planets painted but unattached to their orbits. Lisa dozed on the couch, a medical textbook open on her lap. She stirred as he closed the door. She waited up as long as she could, Lisa whispered, gathering her things. What happened? You're never this late. Jack explained the situation in brief exhaustion, evident in every word. Lisa's expression darkened as she realized the implications. This Mitchell guy deliberately sabotaged you. Can't you report him or something? Jack shook his head. His word against mine, and he's the CFO. Lisa studied her brother, concern, etching deeper lines around her eyes. Jack, what's really going on here? First this weird dinner setup, now why would an executive target a janitor? Jack hesitated, then explained about Claire's request and his refusal. Lisa listened without interruption, her expression shifting from confusion to understanding. You're afraid. It wasn't a question. afraid of being that person again, the one who helps people. I failed Lisa. The admission felt raw, exposed. When it mattered most, my skills meant nothing. Sarah still died. What right do I have to offer hope to others when I couldn't save my own wife? Lisa's hand rested gently on his arm. Jack, you were her husband, not her oncologist. Cancer isn't a communication disorder. It wasn't your job to heal her. But it is my job to protect Emma. And if I lose this position, her insurance goes with it. Jack rubbed his eyes, the weight of responsibility pressing down. I can't risk it. Lisa gathered her purse, pausing at the door. Just remember, big brother, sometimes playing it safe is the biggest risk of all. Sarah would tell you the same thing. Across the city, Claire sat in her home office, a glass of untouched wine beside her laptop, as she scrolled through old videos of Jack Evans. A conference presentation from 5 years prior played on her screen, a younger, more vibrant version of the janitor she knew, confidently explaining breakthrough techniques for children with trauma-induced mutism. The key is approaching without expectation, the Jack on screen explained to his audience. These children have learned that silence is safety. Our job isn't to break through their walls, but to show them how to build doors instead. Claire paused the video, studying his animated expression. The contrast with the guarded, withdrawn man she'd encountered was stark, as if life had gradually dimmed his internal light until only shadows remained. Her phone buzzed with a text from Walter Harrison. Need to discuss concerning reports about your behavior. Breakfast tomorrow, Claire grimaced, Robert wasting no time spreading his poisonous innuendos. She texted back a brief confirmation, then returned to her research. Jack Evans had rejected money as motivation. What else might move him? The answer came as she reviewed an article about his final public appearance, an award ceremony he'd attended shortly before Sarah's death. The journalist had quoted him directly. The greatest gift we can offer another human being is to truly see them not as we wish them to be, but as they are in this moment. That recognition, that witness, is the foundation of all healing. Claire closed her laptop thoughtfully. She'd been approaching this all wrong, offering money-making demands. Jack Evans didn't need financial incentives. He needed to be seen, truly seen as the man he was now, not the ghost of who he'd been. The realization sparked a plan. If Jack wouldn't come to her, she would find a way to come to him outside the power dynamics of Harrison Financial, away from Robert's watchful eyes, somewhere neutral. Further research revealed Jack's weekend routine. According to the security logs she'd accessed, he never worked Sundays, and his personnel file listed a home address in Northeast Philadelphia near Fairmount Park. Sunday morning brought clear skies and bright sunshine that belied the autumn chill. Jack pulled his worn jacket tighter as he watched Emma race toward the playground at Fairmount Park, her breath visible in small puffs of condensation. These Sunday outings had become sacred ritual, a few precious hours of normalcy and joy between work shifts. "Daddy, watch this," Emma called, climbing the ladder to the tallest slide. Jack gave her a thumbs up, settling on a nearby bench with his thermos of coffee. These moments, Emma's laughter, the simple pleasure of sunshine after a long week of fluorescent lights, sustained him through the darker hours. "Mr. Evans?" The familiar voice sent a jolt through Jack's system. He turned to find Claire Harrison standing beside his bench, dressed not in her usual power suit, but in jeans and a simple blue sweater. Beside her stood Olivia, solemn-faced in a red coat, clutching a small plush rabbit. "Miss Harrison," Jack struggled to mask his surprise. "This is unexpected." "Please call me Claire." She gestured to the empty space beside him. "May I?" Jack nodded warily, shifting to make room. Olivia remained standing, watching Emma play with evident longing. "How did you find me?" Jack kept his voice neutral, though the question burned. "Your personnel file listed your address." The park seemed a logical guess for a Sunday morning. Claire had the grace to look slightly embarrassed at the admission. "I apologize for the intrusion, but conventional approaches weren't working." Jack studied her, noting the shadows beneath her carefully applied makeup. "Most people take rejection at face value, Miss Harrison." "Claire," she corrected gently, "and I'm not most people, neither are you." Before Jack could respond, Emma spotted them and came racing over, cheeks flushed with excitement. "Hi, you're from the restaurant, and Olivia." She turned to the younger girl with a bright smile. "Want to go on the swings? I can push you really high." Olivia looked up at her mother, a silent question in her eyes. Claire nodded encouragingly. Go ahead, sweetheart. They watched as Emma gently led Olivia toward the swings, chattering happily despite the younger girl's silence. Your daughter is remarkably kind, Claire observed. She doesn't seem bothered by Olivia's lack of response. Emma's learned that people communicate in different ways. Words are just one of them. Jack sipped his coffee, considering his next words carefully. Why are you really here, Ms. Claire? Claire watched the girls for a moment before answering. I realized I've been approaching this all wrong, trying to buy your services, making demands. That's how I handle business matters, not human ones. And this is a human matter, the most human. Claire's professional veneer cracked, revealing raw emotion beneath. Do you know what it's like to watch your child suffer and be powerless to help? To know there's a world trapped inside them that can't get out? The question struck uncomfortably close to home. Jack thought of Emma's asthma attacks, the terror in her eyes when she couldn't breathe. I might have some idea. Claire turned to face him directly. I'm not asking as CEO of Harrison Financial. I'm asking as Olivia's mother. Please help my daughter find her voice again. I'm not that person anymore. The familiar refrain sounded hollow even to Jack's ears. Aren't you? Claire nodded toward the playground where Emma was carefully demonstrating how to pump her legs on the swing while Olivia watched intently. Look at them. Your daughter instinctively knows how to connect, how to help. She learned that from someone. Jack remained silent, watching the girls interact. Emma's natural compassion, her easy way of including others, traits she'd inherited from Sarah, but that Jack had nurtured after her death. Perhaps some part of the therapist remained, after all, channeled through his daughter, if not himself. I'm afraid. The admission surprised him, vulnerability he hadn't intended to reveal. Afraid I've lost whatever ability I once had. Afraid of failing another child who needs help. Claire's expression softened with unexpected understanding. I'm afraid too. Afraid that one day I'll forget what my daughter's voice sounds like. Afraid she'll grow up unable to express all the brilliant thoughts I know are inside her. Her voice dropped to nearly a whisper. Afraid it's my fault for choosing the wrong father, for not protecting her from the fallout of my failed marriage. The raw honesty of her confession shifted something in Jack. Not the CEO demanding help, but a mother drowning in the same sea of parental guilt, in the fear that often threatened to overwhelm him. I can't promise anything, Jack finally said, but I'll try. Not for money, not as a just one parent helping another. Relief flooded Claire's face, followed quickly by caution. What are your conditions? No contracts, no money changing hands. Nobody at Harrison Financial knows about this arrangement. Jack held her gaze steadily. And if at any point I feel I'm not helping, or worse, causing harm, I stop immediately. No questions asked. Claire nodded slowly, accepting his terms. When can we start? Tomorrow evening, after my shift. I'll come to your home. It's better if Olivia's in her own environment. Jack paused, considering the logistics. And no observers, just Olivia and me at first. Children with selective mutism often feel additional pressure when parents are watching. I understand. Claire extended her hand formally. Thank you, Jack. As they sealed their agreement with a handshake, Jack noticed Robert Mitchell watching them from the park entrance, expression unreadable from this distance. The sight sent a chill through him despite the warm sunshine. Whatever game was being played at Harrison Financial had just become considerably more complicated. The polished granite and glass of Claire's building gleamed in the evening light as Jack approached, feeling profoundly out of place in his worn jeans and flannel shirt. The doorman eyed him skeptically until Claire's name was mentioned, then directed him to the private elevator that serviced only the penthouse level. Jack's stomach tightened as the elevator ascended 32 floors. What had he agreed to? After 3 years of careful isolation, he was willingly stepping back into the role he'd abandoned, risking not only his emotional equilibrium, but potentially his livelihood if Robert discovered this arrangement. The elevator opened directly into a foyer larger than Jack's entire apartment. Claire greeted him with visible relief, her usual corporate armor replaced by casual slacks and a simple blouse. Thank you for coming. She led him through the expansive living area, where floor-to-ceiling windows offered spectacular views of Philadelphia's skyline. Olivia's in the playroom. She's been anxious today, more so than usual. The playroom revealed itself to be a child's paradise filled with every educational toy imaginable. a small art station, bookshelves overflowing with children's literature. Yet despite the abundance, Olivia sat in the center of a pristine white rug, surrounded by untouched toys silently staring at her hands. "I'll leave you to it," Claire said softly, hesitating at the door. "Should I? I'll call if I need anything." Jack kept his voice gentle but firm. "This might take time. Don't expect miracles today." After Claire reluctantly departed, Jack settled on the rug a comfortable distance from Olivia. He made no attempt to engage her directly, instead removing a small canvas bag from his backpack and setting it beside him. From it, he extracted several smooth river stones of varying sizes and colors, along with a box of crayons. Silently, Jack began to draw on one stone, a simple smiley face in blue. He placed it on the rug between them, then continued with another stone, adding a star pattern, then a third with a spiral. All the while, he remained quiet, focused on his task rather than on Olivia. 10 minutes passed. 15. Jack continued creating his stone pictures, arranging them in a small circle on the rug. From the corner of his eye, he noticed Olivia gradually shifting closer, her attention caught by the emerging stone gallery. Still, he didn't acknowledge her interest, maintaining the pressure-free space. Finally, after nearly 20 minutes, Jack gently rolled a blank stone and a red crayon toward Olivia, not directly to her, but close enough that she could reach them if desired. The minutes stretched on. Jack began humming softly an oldie lullaby he used to sing to Emma. Then so slowly it seemed almost imperceptible, Olivia's small hand reached out and took the red crayon. Jack continued working on his own stone, not reacting to this momentous step. Olivia examined the crayon, then the blank stone. Then instead of drawing on the stone, she reached out and drew a single wavering red line across the back of Jack's hand. The unexpected contact sent a jolt through him, not just physical touch, but the profound significance of the gesture. Olivia had initiated contact, had chosen connection over isolation. Jack remained perfectly still, allowing her to complete her drawing, fighting the professional instinct to analyze or interpret the action. When she finished, Olivia looked up at him, her eyes searching his face for a reaction. Jack smiled gently. "Thank you for sharing your art with me." She didn't speak, didn't smile in return, but the wall between them had cracked, if only slightly. A beginning. When Claire returned 30 minutes later, she found them sitting in companionable silence, surrounded by decorated stones. Olivia didn't look up at her mother's entrance, absorbed in creating a pattern of dots on a large flat stone. "How did it go?" Claire whispered, eyes wide at the sight of her daughter actively engaged. Jack rose carefully, joining Claire by the door. "We've established initial contact. It's a good first step. Will you come again tomorrow?" Hope colored Claire's question. Jack nodded. "Same time. And bring some photos of Olivia before she stops speaking if you have them. Family pictures especially." As Jack gathered his belongings, he noticed a drawing left on the rug, a simple stick figure holding what appeared to be a stone with a red line connecting it to a smaller figure. The message wasn't difficult to interpret: connection established, bridge beginning to form. In the elevator descending to the lobby, Jack studied the red line still visible on his hand. For the first time in 3 years, he felt the familiar stirring of professional curiosity, of investment in a child's progress. The sensation was simultaneously exhilarating and terrifying, like stepping onto a frozen lake, uncertain if the ice would hold. The next 2 weeks fell into a cautious rhythm. Jack would complete his shift at Harrison Financial, carefully avoiding Robert Mitchell, then make his way to Claire's penthouse for an hour with Olivia. Each session built upon the previous, establishing trust through small, non-threatening activities, decorating stones, drawing simple hand games that required no verbal interaction but established connection. Olivia's progress remained subtle but significant to trained eyes. She began to make consistent eye contact. Her body language softened from rigid withdrawal to cautious engagement. She created increasingly complex stone stories arrangements that communicated rudimentary narratives about her day, her feelings, her fears. Jack taught Claire to read these stone stories, to understand the silent language her daughter had developed. A large stone surrounded by smaller ones represented Claire, protected by work responsibilities. A stone hidden beneath a tissue depicted Olivia's feelings of invisibility at school. Small triumphs of interpretation that brought tears to Claire's eyes. "She sees everything," Claire whispered one evening as Jack prepared to leave. "All this time I thought she wasn't processing, wasn't engaging. Children with selective mutism aren't choosing not to communicate, Jack explained gently. They're communicating in every way except verbally. Our job is to learn their language while helping them find their way back to ours. After each session, Jack and Claire would debrief over coffee at her kitchen island, discussing Olivia's progress strategies for schoolways Claire could reinforce their work. These conversations gradually shifted from strictly professional to increasingly personal bridges, forming between their drastically different worlds. Jack learned about Claire's childhood as the only daughter of Harrison Financial's founder, the pressure of expectation that had shaped her into the formidable CEO she'd become. Claire discovered Jack's journey from struggling graduate student to pioneering therapist, his passionate belief in giving voice to those society often silenced. "Why speech therapy?" Claire asked one evening. "Of all the specialties you could have chosen." Jack considered the question, memories surfacing that he rarely examined. "I had a severe stutter as a child. Until fifth grade, I barely spoke in school. My teacher that year, Mrs. Donovan, noticed I could sing without stuttering. She used music to help me find my voice." The memory brought an unexpected smile. "I wanted to be that person for other kids, the one who helps them break through the silence." "You still are," Claire said softly, "whether you acknowledge it or not." The statement hung between them, uncomfortably accurate. Despite his reluctance, Jack had stepped back into his former role, finding that the skills and instincts remained intact beneath the layers of grief and disuse. One evening, nearly 3 weeks into their arrangement, Jack arrived to find Claire unusually tense, pacing the foyer as he exited the elevator. "What's wrong?" Jack set down his bag, concern immediate. "Robert Mitchell." Claire's voice carried a razor's edge. "He's been watching me leave the office, asking questions about my early departures. This morning he mentioned how unusual it is for a CEO to consistently miss executive happy hours." She ran a hand through her normally perfect hair. "I think he's having me followed." Jack's stomach dropped. Robert's vendetta against Claire clearly hadn't abated. And now Jack's involvement with Olivia had potentially given the CFO additional ammunition. "Maybe we should pause the sessions," Jack suggested reluctantly, "until things cool down at Harrison." "No." Claire's response was immediate and firm. "Olivia's making progress. I won't sacrifice that because Robert Mitchell can't accept a woman running his company." Before Jack could respond, Olivia appeared in the hallway clutching one of the stones they decorated together. Unlike previous sessions, she approached Jack directly, tugging at his sleeve and pointing toward the playroom. "She's been waiting by the door for 30 minutes. Claire explained, momentary softness replacing her earlier tension. "Go, we'll figure out the Roberts situation later." That evening's session marked a breakthrough. Olivia brought out a family photo album pointing to pictures of herself as a toddler, then pressing her finger to her throat and shaking her head on communicating about her inability to speak. Jack recognized the monumental significance of this self-awareness, this desire to share her experience. Using the stones, Jack created a simple representation of emotions: happy face, sad face, angry face, scared face. Olivia immediately rearranged them, placing the scared stone in the center, surrounded by the others, a clear communication that fear lay at the heart of her silence. When Claire joined them later, Jack demonstrated a simple system of hand signals he'd developed with Olivia, a rudimentary sign language they could use until her verbal communication returned. Claire's eyes welled as Olivia signed, "Water, please," with careful, deliberate movements. "This is incredible," Claire whispered, watching her daughter proudly demonstrate her new skill. "It's a significant step," Jack cautioned, professional instinct tempering Claire's excitement. Nonverbal communication systems can sometimes become too comfortable, delaying the return to speech. But in this case, I think it's the bridge Olivia needs. As Jack prepared to leave, the elevator chimed unexpectedly. Claire frowned, checking her phone. "I'm not expecting anyone." The elevator doors opened to reveal Robert Mitchell, immaculately dressed, despite the late-hour expression shifting from confidence to surprise at the sight of Jack. "Claire, I apologize for dropping by unannounced, but—" Robert's gaze hardened as he registered Jack's presence. "Evans, what are you doing here?" The tension in the foyer crystallized instantly. Claire stepped forward, placing herself slightly between Robert and Jack. "Robert, this is inappropriate. I didn't invite you." "Clearly." Robert's eyes narrowed. "But you invited the janitor to your home. After hours, I'm concerned, Claire. Professionally concerned." "My personal life is none of your business." Claire's voice remained controlled but ice cold. "How did you get access to my private elevator?" Robert smiled thinly. Walter provided the access code. He's worried about you, Claire. We all are. Your behavior lately has been erratic. The implied threat hung in the air. Walter Harrison, Claire's uncle chairman of the board, the one person who could challenge her position at the company. You should go. Claire's tone left no room for negotiation. Robert nodded toward Jack. Not without understanding what's happening here. Is Harrison Financial employing Evans in some new capacity I'm unaware of? Because fraternization between executives and staff is explicitly prohibited by company policy. Before Claire could respond, Olivia appeared in the hallway, freezing at the sight of the unfamiliar man. Robert's presence clearly frightened her. She backed away, eyes wide, seeking refuge behind Jack rather than Claire. The gesture wasn't lost on Robert. His expression shifted from confrontational to calculating. I see. The mute daughter, and the janitor with a hidden past in speech therapy. How convenient. Jack felt Claire tense beside him, knew she was seconds from an outburst that might only worsen the situation. He placed a calming hand on Olivia's shoulder, then addressed Robert directly. Mr. Mitchell, you're frightening Olivia. Whatever issue you have with me or Ms. Harrison can be addressed elsewhere. Robert's gaze flickered between them, something ugly lurking behind his professional veneer. Of course, I wouldn't want to distress the child. He turned to Claire. We'll continue this discussion tomorrow, with Walter present. He stepped back into the elevator, adding as the doors closed. Sleep well, Claire. The silence following his departure felt leaden. Olivia remained pressed against Jack, trembling slightly. Claire knelt beside her daughter, signing safe now, with the gestures Jack had taught them. He's going to use this against me with the board, Claire said quietly after Olivia had calmed. Unprofessional behavior, inappropriate relationship with staff, distracted leadership. Jack nodded grimly. I should go. This arrangement is putting your position at risk. My position? Claire laughed without humor. Jack, he's been gunning for my job since the day I was appointed CEO. This is just his latest ammunition. She gestured toward Olivia, now calmly showing Jack a new drawing. What matters is her progress. Don't you see that? The fierce protectiveness in Claire's voice struck Jack deeply. Despite her corporate success, her wealth and power, Claire Harrison was fundamentally a mother fighting for her child, a motivation Jack understood intimately. I'll keep coming, he promised. But we need to be careful. Robert isn't just playing office politics anymore. This feels personal. It is personal. Claire's expression hardened. 2 years ago, Robert proposed marriage, a strategic alliance between us, as he called it. When I refused, he took it poorly. Jack absorbed this new information, pieces clicking into place. So the blind date set up the constant undermining, wounded pride mixed with genuine belief that a woman shouldn't be running his company. Claire sighed heavily. Classic Robert. As Jack prepared to leave, Olivia approached with a decorated stone, a small blue heart, carefully painted on smooth gray surface. She pressed it into his hand, then made the sign they'd established for thank you. Jack knelt to her level, accepting the gift with appropriate solemnity. You're welcome, Olivia. I'll see you tomorrow. In the elevator descending to the lobby, Jack studied the stone heart in his palm, feeling the weight of what he'd committed to, not just professionally, but emotionally. He was invested now in both Olivia's progress and Claire's struggle. The safe isolation he'd maintained for 3 years had been irrevocably breached. The elevator doors opened onto the opulent lobby, where Jack found himself face-to-face with Robert Mitchell, clearly waiting for him. Evans? Robert's smile never reached his eyes. A word before you go. Jack tensed, instantly alert. It's late, Mr. Mitchell. Whatever you have to say can wait until working hours. Oh, I think not. Robert stepped closer, dropping all pretense of cordiality. You've inserted yourself into a situation you don't understand. Claire Harrison isn't your friend. She's using you to fix her broken child, and once that's accomplished, you'll be discarded. That's who she is. Jack maintained steady eye contact, refusing to be intimidated. Is there a point to this conversation, Mr. Mitchell? Robert's expression hardened. Step back. End whatever arrangement you have with Claire. Do it now while you still have a job at Harrison Financial. Is that a threat? Consider it friendly advice. Robert straightened his already perfect tie. Choose wisely, Evans, for your daughter's sake. The mention of Emma sent ice through Jack's veins. How much did Robert know about his personal life, about Emma's health issues, and dependence on Harrison's insurance coverage? Before Jack could respond, Robert turned and walked away, leaving him alone in the marble lobby, the stone heart clutched in his fist and the distinct feeling that whatever game was being played had just become significantly more dangerous. Morning light streamed through the windows of Harrison Financial's executive boardroom, illuminating dust motes that danced in the silence between words. Claire sat at the head of the long, mahogany table, flanked by her executive team, with Robert Mitchell directly opposite. Walter Harrison occupied the chair to her right, the familial positioning a strategic reminder of their relationship that wasn't lost on anyone present. "I'm concerned about recent developments, Claire." Walter's weathered hand smoothed an invisible wrinkle from his impeccable suit. "Robert has brought some troubling information to my attention." Claire maintained her composure, though she'd been preparing for this ambush since Robert's unannounced visit to her penthouse the previous evening. "I assume you're referring to my decision to seek specialized help for Olivia's condition." Robert leaned forward, the picture of professional concern. "Claire, no one questions your devotion as a mother, but employing company personnel for personal matters, especially someone with Jack Evans' particular history, raises serious ethical questions." "I haven't employed anyone," Claire countered smoothly. "Mr. Evans volunteers his time to help Olivia completely separate from his duties at Harrison Financial." Walter's eyebrows rose. "The janitor volunteers his expertise for free. That seems unlikely." "He has his reasons." Claire kept her explanation deliberately vague, unwilling to betray Jack's privacy. "The arrangement is purely informal and personal." Robert tapped the table with manicured fingernails. "An arrangement that coincidentally began immediately after your unusual dinner together. A dinner I now understand was the result of a misunderstanding." The careful wording didn't disguise the accusation. Claire felt the collective judgment of the room executives who'd never navigated the treacherous waters of single parenthood, now sitting in evaluation of her choices. "This company was built by my father on the principle that family comes first." Claire reminded them, steel entering her voice. "I've increased our quarterly profits by 17%, secured the Asian expansion funding, and maintained client satisfaction at record levels, all while raising a child with special needs. If you're suggesting my performance as CEO has suffered, I'd like to see the evidence." Walter shifted uncomfortably. "Nobody's questioning your performance, Claire. It's the appearance of impropriety. Board members are talking." "About what exactly?" Claire's gaze locked on Robert. "My decision to help my daughter speak again? Or is there another insinuation you'd like to make on the record, Robert?" The challenge hung in the air. Robert's expression remained pleasant, but his eyes hardened. "I'm merely concerned that your personal relationship with a subordinate creates potential liability for the company. What if things end badly?" The implication was clear and deliberately misleading. Claire weighed her response carefully, aware that direct denial would only lend credence to Robert's innuendo. "My relationship with Mr. Evans is strictly professional, focused entirely on Olivia's therapy. If the board has concerns about potential liability, I'm happy to have legal draft a document clarifying the parameters." Claire gathered her materials, signaling the discussion was ending on her terms. "Now, shall we proceed to the actual business at hand? The quarterly projections show promising growth in our international sectors." The tactical shift worked. Walter, clearly relieved to move past the uncomfortable topic, readily endorsed the change in subject. Robert had no choice but to follow suit, though the calculated look he directed at Claire conveyed his retreat was only temporary. As the meeting progressed through financial minutiae, Claire's phone vibrated with a text. She discreetly checked it beneath the table, Jack canceling that evening's session with Olivia. An unexpected development that sent a chill through her. Had Robert already acted on his threats? Jack stood in the sterile hallway of Philadelphia Children's Hospital, the antiseptic smell triggering unwanted memories. Sarah's final days, the helplessness as her body failed despite the best medical intervention money could buy. Now Emma sat in an examination room, struggling to breathe through another severe asthma attack, while Jack battled the administrative system that threatened her care. "I understand our payment history hasn't been perfect," Jack explained to the hospital billing coordinator, fighting to keep desperation from his voice. "But we've never missed a month completely. This increase in her prescription costs wasn't something I could anticipate. The coordinator, Sandra, according to her nameplate, offered a sympathetic but firm smile. Mr. Evans, I understand your situation, but the hospital has policies. Dr. Winters has authorized today's treatment as a courtesy, but without payment arrangements for the outstanding balance, we cannot continue to prescribe Emma's medication at our subsidized rate. Jack ran a hand through his hair, exhaustion settling deeper into his bones. After receiving Robert's thinly veiled threat the previous evening, he'd been awoken at 5 a.m. by Emma's gasping breaths, the worst attack in months requiring immediate medical attention. What kind of payment arrangement would satisfy the hospital? Jack asked, mentally calculating how many extra shifts he could possibly take on. Sandra tapped her keyboard, reviewing his account. The minimum would be $500 today, with monthly payments of $350 until the balance is cleared. Otherwise, we'll need to transfer Emma's care to County General. The county hospital would mean lower quality care, longer waits, and generic medications that hadn't worked as effectively for Emma's particular condition. Jack's chest tightened at the impossible math. $500, he didn't have monthly payments that would strain his already precarious budget beyond breaking point. I need a day, Jack finally said, to arrange the funds. Can you tell Dr. Winters we'll have payment by tomorrow? Sandra's hesitation spoke volumes. I can note your intention, but without actual payment. The conversation was interrupted by Lisa's appearance from Emma's room, her expression tense. Jack, Emma's asking for you. Her oxygen levels are still lower than Dr. Winters would like. Jack nodded, the financial crisis momentarily superseded by more immediate concerns. I'll be right there. Thank you, Sandra. I'll figure something out by tomorrow. In the examination room, Emma lay against starched white pillows, an oxygen mask obscuring half her face. The sight sliced through Jack's heart, her small body connected to monitoring equipment, the rhythm of her labored breathing creating a syncopated beep on the machines. Hey, sunshine. Jack took her hand, careful not to disturb the pulse oximeter clipped to her finger. Feeling any better? Emma managed a weak nod, removing the mask momentarily. Is Olivia okay? You were supposed to help her yesterday. Of course, Emma would worry about others, even while struggling to breathe herself. Jack swallowed against the tightness in his throat. I sent a message. They understand. Emma's eyes, so like Sarah's, studied him with that disconcerting perception children sometimes display. Is it because of the money I heard the nurse talking about insurance? Don't worry about that, Jack reassured her, replacing the oxygen mask gently. That's grown-up stuff. Your job is to focus on breathing better. Okay. Emma nodded, but the concern remained in her eyes, a child shouldering worries far beyond her years. Jack stayed with her until she drifted into an exhausted sleep, the medication finally easing her breathing to a more regular pattern. In the hallway, Lisa waited with coffee in the grim practicality that characterized their siblinghood. How bad is it financially, I mean? Jack explained the situation in hushed tones, laying out the impossible mathematics of Emma's care versus their resources. Lisa listened without interruption, her nurse's training evident in her clinical assessment of the problem. I can help with some, she offered immediately. Maybe $300. My tuition payment cleared last week, so I have a little flexibility. Jack shook his head. You're a full-time student with the loans already. I can't take your money. She's my niece, Jack. Family helps family. Lisa's expression brooked no argument. But it still leaves a gap. What about asking Claire Harrison, considering what you're doing for her daughter? The suggestion hung uncomfortably in the air. Jack had deliberately avoided any financial entanglement with Claire, maintaining the boundary between professional assistance and personal charity. Accepting help now would cross that line, creating exactly the type of leverage Robert Mitchell had warned about. I'll figure something out, Jack insisted, though the path forward remained obscure. Emma should be released this afternoon if her numbers stay stable. Can you stay with her while I make some calls? In the hospital's quiet courtyard, Jack stared at his phone, weighing impossible options. A call to his former bank about a loan against his meager savings? An inquiry about additional night shifts at Harrison Financial? A tentative text to a former colleague who might offer contract work? None of these solutions would materialize quickly enough to secure tomorrow's payment and ensure Emma's continued care, which left the option he'd been avoiding, contemplating reaching out to Claire. Not for a handout, but perhaps for an advance against future custodial work, something that could be documented officially through Harrison Financial's payroll system. As Jack deliberated, his phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Jack Evans speaking. Mr. Evans, this is Walter Harrison. The chairman's distinctive voice sent alarm bells ringing. I understand you've been working with my grandniece, Olivia. I'd like to discuss this arrangement further. Are you available to meet this afternoon? The request blindsided Jack. Walter Harrison, Claire's uncle, the board chairman, a man whose influence extended far beyond Harrison Financial's walls, a man who, according to Robert's insinuations, harbored concerns about Jack's involvement with Claire's family. Mr. Harrison, I'm currently at the hospital with my daughter. She's had an asthma attack. I'm sorry to hear that. Walter's voice conveyed appropriate concern without warmth. Perhaps I could join you there, the Philadelphia Children's Hospital, I presume. The suggestion seemed inappropriate, almost invasive, yet Jack hesitated to refuse the man who effectively controlled his employment. That's not necessary, sir. Emma should be released soon. Excellent. Then perhaps you could stop by my office afterward. Say 4 o'clock. Walter's tone made clear this wasn't truly a request. I assure you it's a matter of some urgency. Jack weighed his limited options. Refusing might cost him his job and Emma's insurance. Accepting meant walking into a situation he couldn't control with a man whose agenda remained unclear. 4 o'clock, Jack confirmed, resignation coloring his tone. I'll be there. After ending the call, Jack texted Claire a brief update about Emma's condition and his unexpected meeting with Walter. Her response came almost immediately. Be careful. Walter rarely involves himself directly unless he sees significant benefit or threat. I'll try to find out what he's planning. The warning did little to ease Jack's growing sense of walking into a carefully orchestrated trap. Claire paced her office phone pressed to her ear as she waited for her private investigator to answer. After 3 rings, Martinez's gruff voice came through. Little early for another update, Harrison. I need everything you can find on Robert Mitchell's financial dealings with the board. Claire kept her voice low, aware of assistants working just outside her door. Specifically anything connecting him to my Uncle Walter. That's sensitive territory. Martinez's caution was warranted. Board members' financial relationships were often deliberately obscured. What am I looking for exactly? Leverage. Robert's making moves against me, and he's bringing Walter into it. I need to understand their alliance. This connected to the janitor situation. Martinez's question confirmed he'd been thorough in his initial investigation of Jack. Tangentially, Claire hesitated, then added, Jack Evans is meeting with Walter this afternoon. I need context before then. I'll see what I can dig up. Martinez's tone suggested limited optimism. But Harried board dealings are designed to be opaque. Don't expect miracles. After ending the call, Claire stared out at the Philadelphia skyline, mentally mapping the chess game unfolding around her. Robert's motives were transparent enough, wounded pride combined with genuine belief that a woman shouldn't occupy the CEO position he coveted. But Walter's involvement complicated matters. Her uncle had supported her appointment 3 years ago, following her father's unexpected death. But that support had always felt conditional, a familial obligation rather than genuine confidence in her abilities. If Robert had managed to convince Walter that Claire's leadership was compromised by personal entanglements or poor judgment, the fragile coalition keeping her in power could quickly erode. Claire's assistant knocked softly before entering. Ms. Harrison, your 1 o'clock appointment is here, and Dr. Winters called about Olivia's evaluation next week. Claire nodded, compartmentalizing her concerns. Send them in, and please tell Dr. Winters I'll call him back this afternoon. As she prepared to shift into CEO mode, Claire's phone lit up with a text from Jack. Emma being discharged. Oxygen levels improved. Still meeting Walter at 4. The brief update provided momentary relief. At least the child was improving, but did nothing to dispel Claire's growing certainty that Jack was walking into a calculated confrontation orchestrated by Robert. The question remained, what did Walter Harrison really want from Jack Evans? Walter Harrison's office occupied the northwest corner of the 50th floor, offering panoramic views of Philadelphia's historic district. Unlike the sleek modernity of the executive spaces Claire had redesigned, Walter maintained the old-world aesthetic of Harrison Financial's founding era. Dark wood paneling, leather-bound financial volumes lining mahogany shelves, oil paintings of previous Harrison patriarchs surveying the domain they'd built. Jack felt distinctly out of place as Walter's executive assistant led him through the ornate double doors. His clothes, hastily changed at home after Emma's discharge, were respectable, but clearly not tailored to the standards of this rarefied environment. Walter rose from behind a desk large enough to land small aircraft, extending a hand with practiced cordiality. Mr. Evans, thank you for making time on what must be a difficult day. How is your daughter recovering? Thank you. Jack accepted the handshake, noting the deliberate pressure Walter applied, not painful but assertive, establishing dominance through physical contact. The doctors are optimistic. Children are remarkably resilient. Walter gestured to a leather chair positioned before his desk. Please sit. Can I offer you anything, coffee, water? Jack declined politely, hyper-aware of the performance aspects of this interaction. Walter Harrison hadn't invited a night janitor to his inner sanctum for casual conversation about children's health. Walter settled back into his chair, studying Jack with the evaluating gaze of a man accustomed to assessing assets and liabilities. I'll be direct, Mr. Evans. Your relationship with my grandniece and her mother presents certain complexities for Harrison Financial. With respect, sir, I don't have a relationship with Ms. Harrison. I'm providing informal therapeutic assistance to her daughter. Semantics. Walter dismissed the distinction with a wave. The fact remains that a night custodian with an undisclosed background in speech therapy is now intimately involved with the CEO's family. You can understand how this might raise eyebrows. Jack maintained steady eye contact, refusing to be intimidated. My background isn't undisclosed. It's in my personnel file, and my assistance to Olivia is given as a private citizen, not a Harrison Financial employee. Walter's smile didn't reach his eyes. Yet these sessions occur immediately after your shifts here, and began following what was clearly a setup orchestrated by Robert Mitchell, a situation that in retrospect I should have intervened to prevent. The admission caught Jack off guard. You knew about that dinner arrangement. Robert mentioned a team-building exercise involving staff from different departments. Walter's expressions suggested mild disappointment. I didn't realize the true nature until afterward. Robert can be overzealous in his commitment to maintaining proper corporate hierarchy. Jack processed this carefully, sensing there was more to Walter's involvement than he was admitting. Mr. Harrison, may I ask why you wanted to meet today? If you are concerned about impropriety, I can assure you my interactions with Ms. Harrison are strictly focused on Olivia's therapy. Walter leaned forward, steepling his fingers. I received some interesting information this morning about your daughter's medical situation. He opened a folder on his desk, revealing what appeared to be Emma's hospital records. Quite serious, these asthma attacks, and expensive to treat, I imagine. Ice formed in Jack's stomach. The violation of Emma's privacy, the implicit threat in Walter's possession of these records, it confirmed his worst fears about this meeting. Those are private medical records, Jack stated, struggling to maintain composure. May I ask how you obtained them? Harrison Financial maintains a close relationship with Philadelphia Children's Hospital. We're their largest corporate donor. Walter's explanation came with practiced ease. When certain names appear in their financial assistance applications, it's not unusual for hospital administration to consult with us, particularly when the parent works for our organization. The explanation, while plausible, didn't disguise the clear message Walter Harrison had access to information most employers wouldn't and wasn't above using it as leverage. What exactly are you proposing, Mr. Harrison? Jack asked directly, patience evaporating. Walter closed the folder deliberately. I'm prepared to ensure your daughter receives the care she needs. A special fund administered through the Harrison Foundation, covering all medical expenses for the duration of her treatment. Additionally, a promotion for you facilities management rather than night custodian. Better hours, substantial raise, enhanced benefits package. The offer was carefully constructed to appear generous while serving Walter's actual purpose. Jack waited for the other shoe to drop. In exchange, Walter continued, you would conclude your therapeutic relationship with Olivia effective immediately. Professional boundaries would be restored, and any personal connection developing between you and Claire would naturally end. The true agenda emerged with crystal clarity. This wasn't about corporate propriety or even Robert's vendetta. This was Walter Harrison protecting the Harrison legacy from what he perceived as Claire's poor judgment, using Emma's health as the pressure point. You're offering to buy me off, Jack stated flatly, to stop helping a child who's finally making progress. Walter's expression hardened slightly. I'm offering to help your child, Mr. Evans, while ensuring Harrison Financial maintains appropriate professional boundaries. Olivia can receive therapy from licensed professionals. Claire can focus on running this company without distractions. Distractions. Jack repeated the word, its implications hanging heavily between them. Is that how you view a mother's concern for her daughter? A distraction from profit margins. Don't presume to lecture me about family values. Walter's veneer of cordiality slipped momentarily. I've spent my life building and protecting the Harrison legacy. Claire's position comes with responsibilities that transcend personal concerns. The statement revealed more than Walter likely intended, his fundamental belief that Claire's roles as CEO and mother were inherently in conflict, that her dedication to Olivia somehow undermined her commitment to Harrison Financial. Mr. Harrison, Jack began carefully, I appreciate your concern for Emma's well-being, but I won't be purchased or threatened into abandoning a child who's finally finding her voice again. This isn't a threat, Mr. Evans, it's a reality check. Walter's tone conveyed paternal disappointment. Your position here exists at the pleasure of executive management. Your daughter's medical coverage depends on that employment. Think carefully about the choice you're making. The explicit threat hung in the air between them. Jack weighed his response, aware that his next words might determine Emma's healthcare access and his ability to provide for her basic needs. Some things aren't negotiable, Jack finally said, rising from his chair. Emma taught me that. Even at 7, she understands there are principles worth standing up for, regardless of the cost. Walter studied him with newfound interest. You're an unusual man, Mr. Evans. Most people in your position would make the practical choice. Maybe that's why Olivia is responding to me when she didn't respond to the practical choices. Jack moved toward the door, conversation clearly concluded. I appreciate your time, Mr. Harrison, and I hope you'll reconsider using a child's medical condition as leverage in corporate politics. As Jack reached the door, Walter called after him. Claire won't thank you for this, you know. When the board questions her judgment, when her position becomes untenable because of your refusal to step back, she'll blame you, not me, not Robert. Jack paused, hand on the doorknob. If that happens, I'll accept it, but I won't betray Olivia's trust for financial security. Some wounds run deeper than balance sheets can measure. The elevator descent from Walter's office felt interminable. Jack leaned against the polished wall, adrenaline ebbing to leave cold reality in its wake. He'd likely just sacrificed Emma's healthcare coverage on principle. The weight of that decision pressed against his chest, constricting his breathing in a cruel mirror of his daughter's condition. His phone vibrated with a text from Claire. Any update on meeting with Walter? Jack stared at the message, unsure how to respond. Should he reveal Walter's manipulations? The implied threat to Claire's position? The calculated attempt to sever the connection between them? Before he could decide, another text appeared. Jack, please call me as soon as you are out. Robert's convened an emergency executive session for tomorrow morning. Topic listed as leadership concerns. The timing couldn't be coincidental. Walter must have known about the emergency session when meeting with Jack, had likely coordinated the entire strategy with Robert. Their two-pronged approach was brutally effective: pressure Jack to withdraw while simultaneously undermining Claire's leadership. As the elevator doors opened on the lobby, Jack made his decision. He couldn't abandon Olivia or Claire to corporate machinations designed to punish a woman for prioritizing her child alongside her career. But neither could he risk Emma's health in a principled stand. There had to be another option, a way to protect both children without surrendering to Walter's manipulation. Jack just needed to find it before tomorrow's executive session. Claire's penthouse bore little resemblance to its usual pristine state. Financial reports covered the dining table, legal pads filled with notes cluttered the coffee table, and a digital strategy board displayed on her tablet mapped potential board alliances and pressure points. Walter offered you what? Claire's voice carried equal measures of outrage and calculation as Jack recounted his meeting with her uncle. A promotion, better hours, full medical coverage for Emma. Jack stood by the windows watching night descend over Philadelphia. All I had to do was stop helping Olivia and end any personal connection with you. Claire's laugh held no humor. Classic Walter, he's not even bothering with subtlety anymore. She paced the living room, heels discarded hours earlier in favor of bare feet. The emergency session tomorrow is their endgame. Robert's been cultivating board members for months, positioning himself as the steady alternative to my supposedly erratic leadership. I'm sorry, Jack said simply. This is exactly what I was afraid would happen when you asked for my help. Your position shouldn't be threatened because you're trying to help your daughter." Claire stopped pacing, studying Jack with unexpected intensity. "Is that what you think this is about, my job? Isn't it? Walter made it clear the board questions your judgment because of our arrangement. The board questions my judgment because I'm a woman in a position traditionally held by men," Claire clarified. "Robert and Walter are simply leveraging Olivia and now you as convenient excuses. If it wasn't this, they'd find something else." Jack absorbed this perspective shift. "Even so, I've become a liability to you professionally." "Maybe." Claire's concession came with a shrug. "But you've become an asset to Olivia personally. And I've learned something important these past few weeks." She moved to stand before Jack close enough that he could detect the faint scent of her perfume. "Some things matter more than Harrison Financial." The admission seemed to surprise Claire herself, a fundamental shift in priorities she was only now fully recognizing. Jack felt an answering resonance in his own chest, the protective walls he'd built around his heart, developing hairline fractures. "What will you do at the executive session?" Jack asked, steering away from the dangerous territory of personal revelations. "Fight." Claire's determination sharpened her features. "I've spent the afternoon gathering ammunition documentation of Robert's questionable financial decisions, evidence of his personal vendetta allies who'll speak against this transparent power grab. And if it's not enough," Claire's smile held surprising serenity, "then I'll walk away knowing I stood for what matters. Harrison Financial survived before me. It will survive after me. Olivia only gets one childhood." The echo of Jack's own journey from career-focused professional to parent prioritizing his child's well-being wasn't lost on him. Despite their vastly different circumstances, they'd arrived at similar reckonings. "Where is Olivia tonight?" Jack realized he hadn't seen the child since arriving. "With her art therapist. I thought it best she have some normalcy while we strategize." Claire gestured toward Olivia's room. "She left something for you, though, on her bed." Jack followed Claire down the hallway to Olivia's bedroom, a space he'd never entered during their therapy sessions. Unlike the minimalist design of the rest of the penthouse, Olivia's room exploded with color and personal touches. Handcrafted mobiles hung from the ceiling, bookshelves overflowed with children's literature, and the walls displayed an evolving gallery of her artwork. On the meticulously made bed sat a small gift bag with Jack's name carefully printed on the attached card. Inside, he found a smooth, white stone painted with remarkable detail for a 5-year-old, a miniature recreation of the sugar star trick he'd performed at their first meeting. Beside it lay a folded paper with Olivia's careful printing. "Thank you for helping me find my voice." The simple message struck Jack with unexpected force, emotion welling up before he could suppress it. This small token represented what he'd been missing since abandoning his therapeutic practice, the profound satisfaction of helping a child overcome barriers, of making a genuine difference. "She worked on it all weekend," Claire said softly from the doorway. "Wanted it to be perfect for you." Jack carefully returned the stone to its bag, composing himself before turning. "She's making remarkable progress. The fact that she can express gratitude, connect emotionally with others, those are significant developmental steps. Because of you." Claire stepped into the room, reducing the distance between them. "Jack, whatever happens tomorrow with the board, with Harrison Financial, I need you to know how grateful I am. You've given Olivia back to me in ways I can't fully express." The genuine emotion in Claire's voice stripped away the professional distance Jack had carefully maintained. In this moment, they weren't CEO and janitor, but simply two parents united by concern for their children. "I should go." Jack moved toward the door, suddenly aware of dangerous emotional territory. "Emma's with Lisa, but I promised to be home before her bedtime." Claire nodded, understanding in her eyes. "Of course, will you let me know how she's doing after today's hospital visit?" "She's resilient, breathing better now." Jack paused in the hallway. "About the hospital bills." "Already handled." Claire held up a hand to forestall his objection. "Not as a handout or bribe. I called Dr. Winters directly and established an account through the Harrison Foundation's existing relationship with the hospital. Emma's care is covered regardless of what happens with the board tomorrow, regardless of your employment status, regardless of whether you continue helping Olivia." Jack's instinct was to refuse to maintain the clear boundaries he'd established from the beginning. But Emma's well-being transcended pride. Thank you. I'll find a way to repay. You already have. Claire's certainty brooked no argument. What you've done for Olivia is beyond financial measurement. As Jack prepared to leave, Claire added, the executive session starts at 9 tomorrow. Whatever they're planning, I'll face it head on. But I'd like you to come to my office afterward. Whatever the outcome, we need to discuss next steps for Olivia's therapy. The request carried weight beyond its surface, meaning Claire ensuring their connection wouldn't be severed, regardless of corporate machinations. Jack nodded his agreement before stepping into the elevator, the painted stone a comforting weight in his pocket. The Harrison Financial boardroom hummed with tension as executives filed in for the emergency session. Claire sat at the head of the table, outwardly composed, despite the sleepless night spent preparing for this confrontation. Robert Mitchell entered last, flanked by Walter Harrison and two board members known to be firmly in the chairman's camp. Thank you all for adjusting your schedules. Robert's practiced concern didn't disguise the triumph in his eyes. I apologize for the urgency, but matters have come to light that require immediate board attention. Claire allowed the theatrical opening without comment, observing the room's dynamics with practiced precision. Three board members avoided her gaze, likely already committed to Robert's camp. Two others displayed subtle signals of discomfort, potential swing votes, if she made her case effectively. Before we begin, Claire interjected smoothly, I'd like to clarify the purpose of this session. The agenda simply states leadership concerns without specificity. Robert exchanged glances with Walter before responding. This meeting concerns your recent judgment lapses, Claire. Specifically, your inappropriate relationship with a night custodian, your misuse of company resources for personal matters, and the resulting impact on Harrison Financial's reputation. The accusation hung in the air, deliberately inflammatory in its phrasing. Claire noted which executives reacted with surprise versus those who nodded in apparent foreknowledge. Serious allegations, Claire acknowledged calmly. Perhaps you could provide specific examples of these supposed lapses. Robert slid folders across the table to each board member. The documentation speaks for itself. Jack Evans hired as night custodian 3 years ago despite being overqualified for the position. Former speech therapist with specialization in childhood communication disorders, conveniently matching the needs of CEO Harrison's daughter. Mr. Evans's qualifications were fully disclosed in his application, Claire countered. His hiring followed standard HR protocols. Yet you've been observed leaving the office early on multiple occasions to meet with him, Robert continued. Witnessed entering his residential neighborhood. Documented having him visit your penthouse regularly in the evenings. The implications were clear, designed to cast Claire's actions in the worst possible light. She maintained her composure, waiting for Robert to finish building his case before responding. Most concerning, Robert continued, is the apparent conflict of interest. You've authorized Harrison Foundation funds to cover Mr. Evans' daughter's medical expenses, a clear misappropriation of resources that exposes the company to potential liability. Walter Harrison leaned forward, playing his rehearsed role. Claire, these actions reflect concerning judgment. As CEO, you represent Harrison Financial to our clients, our investors, and the public. Perception matters. Claire allowed the silence to stretch after Walter's statement, letting the board members absorb the accusations and implied conclusion. When she finally spoke, her voice remained measured, deliberate. Gentlemen, I appreciate your concern for Harrison Financial's reputation. It's a concern I share deeply. She opened her own folder, removing several documents. What troubles me, however, is the deliberate mischaracterization of my actions and the apparent coordination behind this ambush. She distributed her own materials to each board member. You've been presented with a carefully curated narrative designed to question my leadership. Allow me to provide the complete picture. Claire walked them methodically through the truth, Olivia's selective mutism following her father's abandonment, the failed attempts with numerous specialists, the coincidental discovery of Jack's therapeutic background, and the remarkable progress Olivia had made under his guidance. As for the Harrison Foundation's support of Emma Evans's medical care, Claire continued, this falls squarely within our established healthcare initiative for employees' dependents with chronic conditions. The same program that has assisted 15 other employees' families this year alone, as documented on page 7 of your packets. Robert's expression darkened as Claire systematically dismantled his narrative. But she wasn't finished. What concerns me more, Claire continued, is the coordinated effort to use my daughter's medical condition as leverage in a power play. She produced copies of emails between Robert and Walter discussing strategies to address the Claire situation, dating back months before Jack Evans entered the picture. These communications were obtained legally through our standard email archiving system, Claire clarified as murmurs rippled around the table. They demonstrate a pattern of undermining behavior that predates any interaction between myself and Mr. Evans. Robert's face flushed with anger. This is a desperate attempt to deflect from your own impropriety. The fact remains that your judgment is compromised by personal entanglements. Is it? Claire's calm query silenced the room. Or is the true issue that I've demonstrated it's possible to be both an effective CEO and a devoted mother, that I refuse to choose between Harrison Financial's success and my daughter's well-being? She turned to address the full board directly. Gentlemen, the quarterly results before you show record growth under my leadership. Client satisfaction exceeds targets by 17%. The Asian expansion is proceeding ahead of schedule. By every objective measure, Harrison Financial thrives under my guidance. Claire's gaze returned to Robert. So I have to wonder if this emergency session is truly about corporate governance or if it's about something more personal. The implication hung in the air, Robert's past romantic rejection, subtly referenced without being explicitly stated. Several board members shifted uncomfortably, the dynamic of the room perceptibly tilting. Walter Harrison, sensing the change, attempted damage control. Claire, no one questions your professional accomplishments. Our concern is specifically about boundaries between personal and professional relationships. A concern that apparently only applies to female executives, Claire noted pointedly. 3 members of this board maintain personal relationships with Harrison employees without similar scrutiny. The targeted observation struck home. Claire could sense momentum shifting in her favor as board members recognized the double standard being applied. Robert, desperate to regain control, played his final card. The janitor was offered a promotion and comprehensive benefits package for his daughter. He refused. What does that tell you about his motivations regarding our CEO? Claire smiled for the first time since the meeting began. It tells me Jack Evans places principles above personal gain, that he refuses to be manipulated or bought, that his commitment to helping my daughter stems from genuine concern rather than financial motivation. She closed her folder deliberately. In short, it tells me he embodies precisely the values Harrison Financial was founded upon. The statement effectively ended further debate. Several board members nodded in apparent agreement, while others seemed eager for the uncomfortable session to conclude. Walter Harrison, recognizing defeat, called for an executive vote on confidence in current leadership. Claire watched impassively as hands raised around the table, 7 in her favor, 3 abstentions, only Robert and Walter opposing. Motion carries overwhelmingly, Walter announced with practiced grace, pivoting to damage control. This board expresses continued confidence in Claire Harrison's leadership. Meeting adjourned. As executives filed out, Robert lingered behind, fury barely contained. This isn't over, Claire. Actually, Robert, I think it is. Claire gathered her materials calmly. You overplayed your hand, exposed your motivations, and miscalculated the board's priorities. Harrison Financial values results above politics. You've made an enemy today, Robert warned, voice low to avoid being overheard. Claire met his gaze steadily. No, Robert. I've simply recognized one who was always there. She moved toward the door, pausing briefly. Your resignation letter should be on my desk by end of day. Cite personal reasons and I'll ensure a generous severance package. The ultimatum delivered, Claire exited without waiting for response, leaving Robert alone in the boardroom that would never be his to command. In her office, Claire found Jack waiting, as requested, tension evident in his posture as he stood by the windows overlooking Philadelphia. He turned at her entrance, searching her expression for clues to the meeting's outcome. Robert Mitchell is leaving Harrison Financial, Claire announced without preamble. Effective immediately. Relief flickered across Jack's features. And your position? Secure, more so than before, actually. Claire set down her materials, the weight of the morning's confrontation finally registering in her shoulders. The board recognized the situation for what it was, a power grab disguised as concern for corporate governance. Jack nodded, absorbing the implications. What happens now with Olivia's therapy, I mean? That's entirely up to you. Claire moved closer, professional distance diminishing with each step. The threat to your employment is gone. Your daughter's medical care is secured regardless. You are free to continue helping Olivia or to step away without consequences. The choice lay before him unencumbered by external pressure or manipulation. Jack considered it, carefully weighing the comfort of continued emotional distance against the fulfillment he'd rediscovered in helping Olivia. "I'd like to continue," he finally said. "Olivia's making remarkable progress. It would be a disservice to interrupt that momentum." Claire's smile carried genuine warmth. "She'll be thrilled. She was quite concerned when you couldn't come yesterday." "Emma too," Jack admitted. "Even from her hospital bed, she was worried about missing our session." The mutual concern of their daughters for each other created a moment of shared understanding, a bridge between their worlds that transcended professional boundaries. Claire began unusual hesitation in her voice. "These past weeks have been transformative, not just for Olivia, but for me as well. I've reconsidered priorities I thought were fixed, recognized values I'd allowed to become obscured by corporate expectations." Jack recognized the vulnerability in her admission. Claire Harrison, formidable CEO, acknowledging personal growth and change. It mirrored his own journey these past weeks, the gradual reawakening of the man he'd buried alongside Sarah. "When my wife died," Jack found himself saying, "I convinced myself that helping others was pointless, that if I couldn't save her, what right did I have to offer hope to anyone else?" He met Claire's gaze directly. "Olivia showed me how wrong that perspective was. Every connection matters. Every voice deserves to be heard, even when perfect solutions don't exist." Claire nodded, understanding radiating from her. Sometimes the wounded make the most effective healers. They recognize the pain others try to hide. The observation struck Jack with unexpected force, recognition of a truth he had once embraced as a therapist but lost sight of in grief. His experiences with loss, with failure, with rebuilding from ashes, these weren't disqualifications for helping others, but essential qualifications. "There's something I'd like to propose," Claire continued. "The Harrison Foundation is establishing a new initiative, the Olivia Project, focused on communication disorders in children from underserved communities. We need a director with both clinical expertise and personal understanding of the challenges these families face." Jack immediately recognized the offer beneath the description. "Claire, I'm not looking for a charity position, it isn't." Claire's directness cut through his objection. "This is a legitimate need addressing a significant gap in services. You're uniquely qualified academically and experientially. The compensation will reflect both the responsibility and your expertise." Jack hesitated, the prospect both appealing and terrifying. Returning to therapeutic work meant reopening doors he'd deliberately sealed, confronting emotions he'd carefully contained. Yet the fulfillment he'd experienced helping Olivia reminded him of what he'd lost in abandoning his calling. "I need to consider Emma," Jack said finally. "The position would mean significant changes for both of us." "Of course," Claire respected his caution. "The foundation can accommodate whatever schedule works for Emma's needs. And the healthcare benefits are comprehensive, no more hospital payment concerns." The practical considerations aligned with Jack's paternal priorities. But beneath them lay a more profound question. Was he ready to fully reclaim the identity he'd abandoned? To be not just Jack Evans, father to Emma, but Dr. Evans, healer of children's wounded spirits. Olivia's painted stone weighed in his pocket, a physical reminder of the difference one person could make. Of voices waiting to be unlocked, stories needing to be heard. "I'd like to accept," Jack decided, the words feeling like stepping into sunlight after years in shadow. "Not just for the practical benefits, but because it's work worth doing." Claire's smile illuminated her entire being, a genuine expression rarely witnessed in Harrison Financial's executive suites. "Emma will be proud, as am I." The moment stretched between them, filled with unspoken possibilities, professional collaboration evolving toward personal connection, shared purpose opening doors to shared future. "There's one more thing," Claire added, sudden determination in her voice. "Something I need to say while we're being honest with each other." Jack waited, sensing the importance of whatever would follow. "These past weeks, watching you with Olivia, seeing your dedication to Emma, despite impossible circumstances." Claire paused, gathering courage. "I've developed feelings that go beyond professional appreciation or parental gratitude. I don't expect reciprocation. I understand if your heart isn't available, but after today's confrontation with Robert and Walter, I've decided that life's too short for strategic omissions. The directness of her confession caught Jack off guard. Claire Harrison didn't do vulnerability yet. Here she stood, offering exactly that. My heart hasn't been available for a long time, Jack acknowledged quietly. After Sarah died, I locked it away, convinced myself it was safer that way. Claire nodded, accepting his gentle rejection with characteristic grace. I understand. I just needed to be honest about. But something's changed, Jack continued, interrupting her retreat. These past weeks, watching Emma connect with Olivia, seeing you fight for your daughter against corporate politics, it's awakened parts of me I thought were gone forever. He moved closer, the professional distance between them diminishing with each word. I don't know what that means yet. I'm still figuring out who I am beyond grief and survival. But I'd like to explore those questions, not as CEO and employee, but as Claire and Jack. The invitation hung between them, tentative, honest, unrushed. Claire's smile deepened, reaching her eyes in a way Jack had rarely witnessed in their professional interactions. I'd like that very much, she said simply, honesty matching his own. Outside the windows of Harrison Financial Philadelphia stretched toward the horizon, a city of possibility rather than limitation. Within that landscape, two wounded healers stood at the threshold of unexpected connection, their children's intertwined journeys creating bridges neither had anticipated crossing. Not an ending, but a beginning of voices, reclaimed paths, redirected hearts cautiously reopening to possibility after years of careful guarding. The journey ahead remained uncertain, but for the first time in 3 years, Jack Evans looked toward the future with anticipation rather than resignation. And somewhere in that future, two children who had helped each other find connection would witness their parents doing the same, completing the circle of healing that began with a simple sugar star in a moment of unexpected recognition between souls who had forgotten how to be seen.